Hey there guys, welcome back. Hope you're all doing well. This is Chethan here from DoubleCube and welcome back to a brand new Photoshop tutorial. And in today's tutorial, we're going to be learning to create this amazing vibrant banner here in Photoshop. So the original credits goes to Obelix, and he's one of my friends on Twitter, and he recently uploaded the Speedart on the same concept, and I asked him whether I could make a tutorial and he said go ahead. So here it is. So as you can see, I'm going to be breaking down the complete thing. So I'm not going to be making anything from scratch, but I'm going to be explaining in detail. So let's get started, guys. Okay. So so we're going to go ahead from basics, from scratch, from literally everything, even to the color corrections and stuff. Pardon me if you guys can hear a lot of noise. All right. So the first one is we just have a simple black background layer, and now on top of that we are going to add in some footage. So I actually have a picture over here. So if you can see here, this is the picture I have, and once I import it, I just had to use the eraser tool by pressing E on the keyboard, which I have, and you just go ahead and start erasing this stuff. Make sure your brush is set to hardness, where the hardness is set to 0, and you can increase or decrease the brush size by using the square bracket keys, and just go ahead and do that till get what you're requiring. So that was the first part. The next layer is so once I did that, I just duplicated the layer by pressing Ctrl J. So or you can go right click and choose duplicate layer, and once you do that, I just shrunk the layer down. As you can see over here, I shrunk the layer down, and I erased some of the parts, but after that I went to filter, blur, and I chose a Gaussian blur, and I probably set the radius down to 6 or 10, whichever suits best for you. So then I uploaded another picture, as you can see over here. So it's another picture, and I did the same thing. So if I hide these two layers, it's going to look something like this. So I just removed all the unnecessary parts which I don't want, and I duplicated that layer and I put it over here, basically doing the same thing. All right. The next one is we have another. I duplicated that layer once again, and I put it down below to give it a little bit of randomness. Great. So now next what we want to do is we want to make this into a complete black and white image. And if your picture is already black and white, you don't need to make it black and white. So we're going to add a gradient map. Now, how do you get a gradient map? You can come over here and choose gradient map, as you can see over here, or if I have I have my adjustments panel over here, and if you need this, you can go to window and choose adjustments. And I'm going to go and choose for the gradient map. If I just turn the gradient map, it's going to make it completely black and white, which is looking amazing. And I'm going to have another gradient map over here. Now the first gradient map is to make it black and white, and the second gradient map is to change the color to whichever you require. Now if I have only the first gradient map selected, it's not going to make a big difference, but it's going to give a little bit more vibrancy, as you can see over here, more contrast when I put the black and white gradient map. All right, so here let me just show you the color settings that I have. So it's a black to this color, which is in the center. So these are the settings if you guys want to copy it. So what I suggest you to guys is to copy these settings, and if you want to change it, I suggest you to move the slider over here to whichever color you want, so it maintains the same the shade of the color which I've used. And I'm going to come over here and show you guys this one. So it's almost a complete red. So if I move it up, you guys can go and change it to whichever you want. All right, so next I just went ahead and added it in my logo. So let me just zoom in over here so I can show you guys a little bit better. All right, so I just added it in my logo, and then I added this I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's a faint black color brush. So if I show you guys over here, so as you can see, there's a brush. So how do I create that? I just create a new layer. So I just click on this button, which create a new layer. I'm going to press B on the keyboard, just give me a brush tool, and make sure your foreground color is set to black and your background is set to white. I mean, the foreground is most important if it's set to black. So if it is not set to black, you just click on this button over here, and that's going to fit to black. And I'm just going to reduce the brush size, and I'm just going to go and paint over slightly over that. Okay, so once we have this shade that we just put, we're going to go ahead and create a clipping mask. So so as you can see over here, I've actually set their opacity down to 65%. Because it was too high. And there are two ways to create a clipping mask. You can right click and choose create clipping mask, and what that's going to do is that's going to apply it only on the layer which is present below. Now as you can see, there's an arrow mark. So yeah, the next thing is we have a stock image over here. So let me just zoom out to show you guys over here. Okay, so if I set this to normal, you can see I have this just a nice stock image. And what I'm going to do now with it is I'm going to go ahead and set the blending mode to color dodge, and then I'm going to add a gradient over here. So this gradient is a simple gradient map, which is a black and white, which I showed you guys initially. Okay, that's going to be our stock one, and I'm going to duplicate that. And once I duplicate that, as you can see over here, I've duplicated it, and I just moved it on to the other side. So as you can see over here, I'm not quite sure if you guys can see it. So I just moved it on the other side by pressing Ctrl T, right click, and choose flip horizontal, and that's going to flip it horizontal, and you guys can just move it up and place it wherever you want. All right, next we have this image. So this is basically an overlay. So I just got this. I don't know if I can show you guys the original stock. So if I increase the opacity, you can see it looks something like this. It's just a simple overlay. If you go to Google and type overlays, you probably get a lot. And then make sure it's black and white. And I've set the blending mode to linear dodge add. If I set it to normal, it's going to look something like this. And I just used the eraser tool and erased most of the parts over here. So it finally looks like this now. And I'm going to set the blending mode to linear dodge add, and I just reduce down the opacity down to 35%. That gives a little bit of difference feel. Okay, so once we have that, we can select all of these layers and put them into a new group called as BG. So this is going to be, and if you want to put them into a new group, you can right click and choose, I don't know if this option is here, but the shortcut is Ctrl G. So once we have that, I've actually used Bear's lighting pack, which you can download, and you can just go to his channel and check it out. It's a very useful and very helpful lighting pack over here. And most of the lighting pack that I've used are Timper's 4K pack, and also not quite sure with the other pack was, but I think I used Timper's 4K pack a lot. So if you guys want to, just mention that in the comment section and I'll give you guys the link. All right, so the next one is we have this light over here. So if I show you guys, so this is set to overlay. If I set it to normal, it's going to look something like this. So it's just a bright lens flare kind of a thing. So you guys can get the stock images on Google. It's not going to be any problem. I'm going to set the blending mode to overlay. All right, so now if I switch it on, switch it off, you get this nice, beautiful contrast. All right, then the next one is another part by stock image by Bears in the lighting packs. If I set the blending mode to normal, we have this black and white, like a shatter effect kind of a thing. So I'm gonna go and set the blending mode to divide, and you can see we have this nice effect that's coming from the bottom. All right, so the next one is we have this bar. Okay, so we get this bar. So this is where I'm going to be putting up my social media icons. So how do we do it? So it's just pretty simple. We're going to create a new layer, and once you create a new layer, I'm going to go ahead and use my marquee tool and just create a box like this. And I'm going to hold down Alt and Delete, which is going to fill it with my foreground color. And if you want to fill it with your background color, you want to hold Control and Delete. So once we hold that, I'm going to press Control D to deselect. And then I'm going to go to Filter. I'm going to go to Blur, and I'm going to go to Directional Blur. Directional blur, motion blur. What the hell is that? Yeah, motion blur, sorry, not directional blur. And I've set the angle to 0 and the distance of 135, and you guys can go ahead and increase it based on your liking. And so let me just delete that. So this is what we have. So this is the box, and I've set the opacity down to 60% because I don't want it to be. So maybe I'm just going to reduce that to 70%, not 60%. All right, then we have our social media icons. So it's basically simple social media icons that we have over here. So so the color I'm using for this is I'll show you guys. It's gonna be, these are the color settings. So it's just a simple color overlay, and then I'm using I just created a text layer by pressing T, or you can come over here and then you can just go ahead and type in whatever you want. And you can come over here and click on this button, which is a character. If you don't have that, you can go to window and choose check on character, and or you can even come over here and change. So I'm using the font Homanje, and then I just set it to a white color. So let me just delete that, and I just placed it over here, and that's looking great. So next up, once we finish off our social media icon, we have our main text over here which says double cube. So I just copy pasted this text by pressing Ctrl J, or right clicking and choose duplicate. This is duplicate group because it is a group, but if I come over here and choose right click, it's going to go and duplicate layer. There we go. All right, I duplicated it once again, and I created another layer which says 2D graphic and motion graphics designer, because I am a 2D graphics designer as well as a 2D and 3D motion graphics designer. The next thing, we have this nice glow at the back. So it's a pretty simple way to make it. So how we want to do it, if I just make a new layer, I'm going to press B on the keyboard, and I'm just gonna go increase the size of the brush, and with my foreground color I'm just gonna click, and if I so I'm gonna click, and it's gonna give me this brush. And what I'm going to do is with this I'm going to go and set the blending mode to linear dodge add and reduce the opacity down to 40%. On top of that, I'm going to add a hue and saturation adjustment layer. So the hue and saturation, you can get it from here, which is hue and saturation, or you can even add it from here, which is your hue and saturation over here. All right, so the settings for this is I'm just reduce the lightness down to 60% because it gives it a more of a contrast and a vibrance, and also automatically reduces the opacity, making it look, not too flashy to the eyes. The next thing is our final correction, which is our curves effect. So, give us a little bit of contrast. If I show you guys the overall outcome is the curves effect. So if I double click, it's just a simple curves to bring down the color. And on top of that, we have a vibrance, which is going to give it, if you can see the final result, it's going to give it a beautiful, flashy vibrance effect. So if I go here and as you can see here, my saturation is set to 15 and my vibrance is set to 10. And with and without the vibrance, it's going to look like this. All right, so that is pretty much it for this tutorial, guys. Hope you guys really enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you give me a thumbs up and subscribe for more content, and make sure you guys follow me on Twitter, because I keep uploading a lot of stuff, tweeting out a lot of stuff. And so if you have any questions or requests, feel free to mention that in the comment sections down below, and I always reply to the questions or comments as soon as possible. And let me just end this video by saying thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. So till then, take care and bye bye.